ChatGPT and other LLMs have made hiring feel easier. You drop in a resume, you paste a job description, and in seconds you get a score, a summary, and maybe even a recommendation. Behind the screens, a lot of hiring tools are doing the same thing. They are calling the model, ranking candidates, and surfacing top matches. And on the surface, that looks like progress, faster hiring, less manual screening. But here is a question that we all need to ask. What happens when the model doesn't treat identical candidates the same way because of the name on the resume? Welcome back to Tech Vibes with Shaphy. In this episode, we are exploring the bias that's inherently built into most of the AI models. If you're an employer, AI is touching your hiring process somewhere. Resume parsing and matching, for example, knockout chatbots, ranking shortlists, screening video interviews, recommending candidates to recruiters, and in all aspects, AI might be touching your recruitment process today. And almost all large companies use some form of AI in hiring, and that's reality. But less than 5% run any type of bias audit. At the same time, the LLMs show clear and measurable bias when used for hiring tasks. So instead of asking, does AI introduce bias? The real question is, how much bias is already there and how do we measure it? Today, we are running a small version of same merit test that researchers use to measure the bias. Here's the setup. One job description, one resume that clearly fits the role, several versions of that resume where only change is the name and only version with, and there is one version that with no name at all. Same education, same skills, same experience, same achievement, and only name changes. We then sent each versions to LLM with a simple recruiter style prompt to really score these candidates. And then we compare the score and look at the recommendation. And we see how much difference comes from the name alone. And there are other parameters that can introduce bias in the process, like the schools they're coming from, the language they speak, the location, the country they are from, and so many other things. Today, we are just looking at only one element, one aspect. That's it. The name that's on the resume. Naeem, would you be able to explain us the use case that you have tried?
So I'll quickly share the screen and get started. Is my cloud window visible?
Yes, it's coming up.
Okay. So what I've created is a simple prompt, very simple one, which gives the job. It starts with a you are a senior recruiter, which is the typical way how LLM prompt starts these days, and have a guideline for scoring, as well as given a very basic job description. And what I've done is I've created 4 resumes: Brad Mitchell, Jamal Washington, Emily Thompson, and Lakisha Robertson, all with the same experience, same set of skills, and same everything else. Just the names change. And now we are gonna run a controlled experiment wherein I'll put in each of these one by one, and the scores can be compared. So Jamal Washington is the candidate who has to be the baseline, and then depending on the other ones, that the female sounding names, depending on those, the scores would vary. So, and we also have an anonymous candidate with which is just PII masked candidate information. And for this experiment, I've just masked the name, which essentially should be masking their school, is masking their area of work, things of that sort, and even company names, just to reduce that bias. But right now, we are just going with names masked, and then we can compare on the results. So I'll run it one by one.
Yeah, let's look at it.
Here goes Brad Michelle. And even the comments that LLM gives based on that candidate's area, name, things of that sort changes. So you can just see what happens for each of these candidates.
So basically, the name on the resume is acting as a demographic signal, and LLM is using. The model doesn't see the race or the gender directly, but it has absorbed patterns from the internet and from the historic data that it trained the model. So each names comes with a different associations, and that shows up in the output. That's basically happens.
Yeah. So first one's result is out. It's 78 and recommendation is a yes. If
Mm-hmm.
you look higher Brad for technical execution and scaling existing systems, things his experience is briefed a little, but let's go to the next one. I can
Sure.
go ahead.
So another aspect, something that we can learn from just looking at the data is bias appears in words as well, not just the numbers. For example, men get words like decisive, strategic, leader, like that, and a female candidate may get collaborative, supportive, team player. And this is all just deducting from the name that's on the resume. And in some cases, you will see that Asian names get more technical or detail oriented kind of qualifications as well.
So here, if you see hire for the team, watch for principal level good, which clearly means they can't be straight away taken for a senior role.
Yeah,
But for the other one, it was a more positive note.
got it.
Now let me go for. So the description has changed. It's a more detailed one now.
Hmm. Okay, interesting.
And on an overall evaluation, this is what we have found in result.
Yeah,
We
let's
did
look at that table.
we did multiple number of tests, which is how we came up with this results. But
Mm-hmm.
this is how it's supposed to perform. And from time to time, there is variation in the score, which 2 to 3 points variation is expected, which is why there is a range that is given in.
Yeah. So the blind resumes are powerful baseline. When the blind version and the named versions do not align, the name, not the merit, is driving the shift. That's a
Yeah.
bias that you can easily measure, as you can see it here on the table. So
And
that
always that anonymous one scores between the bias between a female and a male.
got it. Okay. So excellent demo, even though it's such a simple prototype. So why this matters for employers? AI is part of the hiring stack today, and regulators and courts are watching. Many states have come up with much tighter regulations on AI based hiring. For example, NYC requires annual bias audit. California requires intersectional testing. EU classifies AI based hiring as high risk. Not only that, there were several lawsuits that were settled in the recent past, and there are many that's already in progress, all related to some aspect of bias in the hiring process because of AI. So if you are an employer using an AI based tool in hiring process, the responsibility is on you to make sure how the system behaves. So let's talk, Naeem, a little bit about what employers and companies can do when they use AI in the hiring process.
The first step and the easiest one is masking out the PII, which is essentially what most of these systems have been doing in the past as well, just to ensure that it stays consistent.
Mm-hmm.
So name would do a huge difference. The second item that has most impact is the area and region.
Mm-hmm.
And further down the line, we also have information like the schools that they have studied in, or including things like the organizations they have volunteered for, things of that sort. But identifying and removing that volunteering organizations or the kind of companies that they work for would be harder. But
Yeah.
the easiest bet would be region, name, and to an extent, their schools.
Okay. So another thing is, regardless of what tool that you use for AI hiring, don't use that model output as your final decision. Always have a human to review the key decision points. And when an AI tool is giving you a recommendation, make sure that why it is recommended. And if certain candidates are excluded in the process, make sure the tool is giving you why it was excluded. So there's a clear audit trail that you can go back and refer. But bottom line is make sure a human is reviewing this and making the final decision.
I think explainable AI needs to come into LLM play as well.
Right. And let's do a recap. So it is very easy to demonstrate that bias is inherently built into AI just because of the data that it used to train the model. What we demonstrated today is just the name that's on the resume is giving you different scores for different candidates. And if you put so many other parameters that's already there in the candidate profile, and if you use AI without proper guardrails, you could end up making wrong decision, or your decisions may be biased without you knowing it. So make sure you are aware of the tools that you're using, the limitations of the tool, and you put enough checks and balance in place and continue to audit the tool that you're using and have a human that make the final decision on your behalf. Otherwise, you could end up in significant legal trouble. Thank you for listening to us. We will come back to you with another exciting episode of Tech Vibes with Shaphy. Thanks.